You're watching The Mad Historian. This video is protected under Section 107 of the U.S. Copyright Act. All material shown here is used under fair use for educational, research, commentary, and historical analysis. Images, footage, and references are used transformatively to teach, inform, critique, or document historical events, and not for commercial redistribution. The following content may include strong language, sensitive historical topics, and descriptions of violence connected to real events. Viewer discretion is advised. Before Europe crossed the ocean, before colonization, before Columbus, Europe and Spain were not the global superpowers we imagine today. To understand what happened to the Americas, you have to understand what was happening in Europe as a whole, and Spain specifically, in the 1400s, including the land they occupied, the kingdoms they controlled, and the chaos they were living in. First, let's talk land. Europe is a continent, one connected landmass stretching from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to Russia in the east, and from the Arctic in the north to the Mediterranean Sea in the south. In the 1400s, Europe included Spain and Portugal on the Iberian Peninsula, England, Scotland, Ireland, and Wales on the British Isles, France, Italy, but divided into powerful city-states like Venice, Florence, and Genoa, German-speaking regions inside the Holy Roman Empire, Austria, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Belgium, Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Eastern Europe, Poland, Hungary, and the western edge of Russia, the Balkans, Serbia, Greece, and others. Europe was a patchwork of kingdoms, languages, cultures, and religions. This landmass was divided, not united, and each region was fighting its own battles. Now that you know where Europe sat, let's talk about what was happening there. Europe in the 1400s was struggling, recovering from the Black Plague, losing up to 60% of its population, suffering food shortages and labor collapse, dominated by the Catholic Church, full of superstition and religious fear, fighting nonstop wars, living mostly as peasants and serfs with no freedom. Europe wasn't looking outward because it was strong. Europe was looking outward because it was desperate. Now let's zoom in on Spain. In the early 1400s, Spain wasn't a country at all. It was a group of separate kingdoms sitting on the Iberian Peninsula. Castile, Aragon, Navarre, Granada, a Muslim kingdom. These kingdoms had different rulers, different cultures, and different political agendas. They didn't unify until 1469, when Isabella of Castile married Ferdinand of Aragon, the couple who would later fund Columbus. Everywhere you looked, Europe was fighting. The 100 Years' War, the Wars of the Roses, city-state conflicts in Italy, religious wars inside Germany, battles with the Ottoman Empire. This continent was fractured. Spain wasn't fighting everyone. It was focused on one long war, the Reconquista, a nearly 800-year religious conflict. Christians trying to reclaim territory from Muslim rulers, ending with the fall of Granada in 1492. This victory reshaped Spain's identity and gave it the confidence and the military energy to look outward. The Catholic Church controlled education, morality, and public life. Science and free thought were suppressed. The stage was being set for the Reformation. Spain took religious control even further. 1478, the Spanish Inquisition begins. Jews and Muslims forced to convert or face punishment. Strict monitoring of beliefs, books, and behavior. A national identity built on Catholic purity. Spain was the most aggressively religious state in Europe, and that mindset traveled with them across the Atlantic. Europe, hit hard by the plague, losing trade routes due to the Ottoman Empire, hungry for gold, spices, land, and new markets. Spain, deep in debt from centuries of war, lacking resources, behind Portugal in exploration, desperate for new wealth. This desperation is exactly why Spain gambled on Columbus. Europe, dozens of kingdoms, no unity, constant shifting alliances. Spain, suddenly strengthened by royal marriage, becoming a centralized kingdom, unified under Isabella and Ferdinand, poised to compete with Portugal, ready to expand outward. Spain was newly unified and hungry. Italy, France, England, Germany, all busy with internal wars. Only Portugal began exploring the African coast. Spain, just unified, Reconquista completed, religious energy high, financial pressure strong, ready to take risks, eager to beat Portugal. So when Columbus offered a plan to sail west, Spain said yes. Europe in the 1400s, one continent, many kingdoms, recovering from plague, fragmented politically, dominated by the church, hungry for wealth, losing access to Asian trade routes. Spain in the 1400s, not a unified country until 1469, fighting a centuries-long religious war, deeply Catholic and politically aggressive, financially unstable, newly unified under powerful monarchs, ready for expansion, the first major European power to cross the Atlantic. Spain wasn't the strongest, it wasn't the richest, it was simply the first ready to gamble everything on colonization. To understand how colonization began, you must understand Europe as a landmass, divided, desperate, and searching, and Spain, newly unified, armed with religious power, and ready to expand by force. I'm the mad historian. Stay bold, stay curious, and keep uncovering the truth beneath the myth.